Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the Mercy's Light and watched the stars. The big white ship moved slowly through space toward the Kepler 442 system. Red crosses painted on the hull showed everyone that this was a hospital ship. The ship was 400 meters long and carried 2,000 doctors and nurses. In the medical bays, 8,000 wounded soldiers from 17 different alien races waited for help. "Captain, we're getting close to the battle zone," said Commander Kim So-ra. She was the head of security, but the hospital ship only had basic shields for protection. They never carried weapons because galactic law protected medical ships. Lee Dae-ho had been a fighter pilot 20 years ago. He was good at fighting, but he chose to save lives instead of taking them. Now he commanded the biggest hospital ship in human space. His crew came from all over Earth to help wounded soldiers, no matter what species they were. "Dr. Park Jimin to bridge," came a voice over the speaker. "We're ready to start taking new patients. The surgery rooms are prepared." Dr. Park was the best surgeon in the fleet. He had saved thousands of lives during this war between the Galactic Coalition and the hegemony of Vaktar. The hegemony was a group of alien races that believed only the strong should survive. They thought helping the weak was stupid. "Thank you, Doctor," Lee Dae-ho replied. "We'll be at the pickup point in 1 hour." The war had been going on for 3 years. The Coalition tried to fight with honor and protect civilians. The hegemony killed anyone who got in their way. Human doctors and nurses worked on Coalition ships because humans were known as the best healers in the galaxy. Earth had been peaceful for 100 years, focusing on medicine instead of weapons. Nurse Han Woo-jin was in Medical Bay 7, checking on a young Centauri child who had lost both legs in a bombing. The kid was scared and far from home. Han Woo-jin sat next to the bed and showed him pictures of Earth's animals to make him smile. "Will I ever walk again?" the child asked in broken English. "The doctors will give you new legs," Han Woo-jin promised. "You'll run faster than before." The hospital ship reached the battle zone. Dozens of Coalition ships floated dead in space. Some were completely destroyed, others just badly damaged. The Mercy's Light began picking up escape pods and survivors. "Broadcasting on all emergency channels," announced the communications officer. "This is the hospital ship Mercy's Light. We are here to help wounded personnel. We are protected under galactic medical laws." Lee Dae-ho watched the rescue work begin. His ship took in hundreds of wounded soldiers. Humans, Centauri, Andorians, and many other species filled the medical bays. The doctors and nurses worked without stopping. Suddenly, the space around them began to shimmer. 3 huge enemy ships appeared from nowhere. Each one was a kilometer long and covered in weapons. These were hegemony dreadnoughts, the most powerful warships in their fleet. "Captain, 3 hegemony vessels just uncloaked," Kim So-ra reported. Her voice was calm but worried. "They're targeting us." Lee Dae-ho opened a channel to the enemy ships. "This is Captain Lee Dae-ho of the hospital ship Mercy's Light. We are a protected medical vessel under galactic law. We are here only to help wounded soldiers. Please respect our mission." The reply came from Warlord Thekmon, commander of the lead hegemony ship. His voice was cold and cruel. "Human fool, we do not recognize your weak laws. Mercy is for the weak. You heal our enemies, so you are our enemies too." "Sir, they're charging weapons," Kim So-ra said. "Should I raise shields?" Lee Dae-ho knew their basic shields would not stop dreadnought weapons. "All medical staff, this is the captain. Prepare for emergency evacuation. Get the patients to the escape pods." Dr. Park Jimin was in surgery when the alarm sounded. He had a Centauri soldier on the table with a piece of metal in his heart. The patient would die if he stopped the operation. "Doctor, we have to go," a nurse said. "I won't leave him," Dr. Park replied. "Get the other patients to safety. I'll finish this surgery." The first enemy blast hit the ship's rear section. The Mercy's Light shook like a toy in a storm. Lights went out and came back on. The ship's hull began to crack. Han Woo-jin was helping move patients to the escape pods when the second blast hit. The Centauri child he had been caring for was too weak to walk. Han Woo-jin picked him up and ran toward the pods. A third blast tore through the ship's middle. Sections began to break apart and spin into space. The artificial gravity failed in some areas. Medical equipment floated in the air. "They're targeting the medical bays on purpose," Kim So-ra reported in shock. They know exactly where our patients are. Lee Dae-ho watched his ship die around him. The hegemony forces were not just attacking them, they were trying to kill every wounded soldier on board. This was against every law of war that civilized species followed. Dr. Park Ji-min finished the heart surgery just as his section lost atmosphere. He put an oxygen mask on his patient and sealed them both in an emergency medical pod. Around him, the surgery room fell apart, but he had saved one more life. Han Woo-jin reached an escape pod with the Centauri child. As he put the kid inside, another blast hit their section. Metal beams fell toward the child. Han Woo-jin threw himself over the small alien, taking the hit with his own body. His last words were, "You're safe now." The Mercy's light broke in half. Thousands of people died in seconds. Medical staff who had dedicated their lives to healing others were killed while trying to save their patients. Lee Dae-ho stayed on the bridge until the end. He sent one final message to Earth. They targeted the wounded. They killed doctors and nurses. They fired on medical pods. Remember us. Remember what they did here. The escape pods scattered into space. Some made it to safety. Others were hunted down by hegemony fighters who shot them like targets. The attackers laughed as they destroyed pods marked with red medical crosses. Only 47 people survived the massacre. Commander Kim So-ra was one of them. As her pod drifted in space, she watched the hegemony ships leave. They had spent an hour killing defenseless medical personnel and wounded soldiers. The footage of the attack spread across the galaxy within hours. Everyone saw hegemony forces deliberately targeting a hospital ship. They saw fighters shooting medical escape pods. They saw wounded soldiers dying while trying to surrender. The galaxy was shocked, but most governments did nothing. They were afraid of the hegemony's power. They offered sympathy and promised investigations, but no real action. On Earth, however, people watched the videos with growing anger. For a century, humans had been the galaxy's healers and peacekeepers. They had chosen compassion over violence. Now they saw what their mercy had earned them. The age of human peace was ending. Something dark and terrible was awakening in the hearts of humanity, and the galaxy would never be the same again. President Choi Min-ho sat in his office on Earth and watched the terrible videos again. The footage showed hegemony fighters shooting at medical escape pods while wounded children floated helplessly inside. He had watched it 20 times, and each time made him angrier. Choi Min-ho had been Earth's president for 8 years. He was known across the galaxy as a peaceful man who solved problems with words, not weapons. Earth had not started a war in over 100 years, but now he stared at images of human doctors and nurses being murdered while trying to save lives. "Sir, the survivors are here," said his assistant. Commander Kim So-ra walked into the office. She was one of only 47 people who lived through the hospital ship attack. Her left arm was in a cast, and she had burns on her face. Behind her came 6 other survivors, all medical staff. "Tell me what happened," the president said quietly. Kim So-ra stood straight despite her injuries. "Mr. President, they knew exactly what our ship was. We broadcast medical signals on all channels. Our hull was painted with red crosses. We followed every galactic law for protected medical vessels." She paused, remembering. "Warlord Thekmon told us that mercy was for the weak. They targeted our medical base first. They wanted to kill the wounded soldiers we were treating. When we tried to evacuate, they hunted down our escape pods like animals." One of the surviving doctors, Dr. Kim Hae-sun, spoke up. "Sir, they were laughing. The hegemony pilots were laughing as they shot at pods full of injured children. I saw a fighter destroy a pod that held 6 wounded Centauri babies." President Choi closed his eyes. He had dedicated his life to peace, but peace only worked when both sides wanted it. The hegemony saw kindness as weakness and mercy as invitation to murder. "What did the Galactic Coalition say?" he asked. "They're forming a committee to investigate," Kim So-ra replied bitterly. "They want to write a strongly worded letter. The Centauri ambassador said they were deeply concerned. The Andorian Council offered thoughts and prayers." President Choi stood up and walked to his window. Outside, he could see the busy streets of New Geneva, Earth's capital city. Children played in parks while their parents worked in hospitals and schools. For 100 years, Earth had been like this, peaceful, focused on helping others. "Get me Fleet Admiral Kang Seo-jun," he said. Admiral Kang had been waiting for this call. He was Earth's top military commander, a position that had been mostly ceremonial for decades. Earth's fleet was small and focused on defense and rescue missions. Most of their ships were hospital ships, supply vessels, and research craft. "Mr. President," Admiral Kang said as he entered the office, "I've been reviewing our military capabilities." "What do we have?" President Choi asked. "Admiral," Kang activated a holographic display. "Our active fleet has 200 ships. Most are medical and supply vessels. We have 30 combat ships for defense. Against the hegemony's 1,000-ship armada, we would last about 10 minutes. The survivors looked hopeless, but Admiral Kang continued. "However, we have something else. In storage facilities across our solar system, we keep the mothballed fleets from our old wars. These are ships we haven't used in 50 to 100 years. With full mobilization, we could field 800 combat vessels within 6 months." "That's still not enough," Dr. Kim Hae-soon said. Admiral Kang smiled grimly. "Doctor, you're thinking like the old Earth. The Earth that builds hospitals and schools. But we used to be very good at building other things." President Choi looked at the images of the destroyed hospital ship one more time. He thought about all the human doctors and nurses who had died trying to heal alien soldiers. He thought about the hegemony pilots laughing as they murdered children. "Admiral, I want you to contact every shipyard, every factory, every resource center in human space. Convert them all to military production. Full mobilization as of right now." Admiral Kang nodded. "Yes, sir. What are your orders regarding our current defensive posture?" "Defensive?" President Choi's voice was cold. "Admiral, we're not going to defend anything. We're going to make sure this never happens again. I want you to start planning the complete destruction of the hegemony military." The room went quiet. Earth had not planned an offensive war in living memory. "Sir," Admiral Kang said carefully, "that would mean attacking them in their home systems. It would mean hunting down their fleets across the galaxy." "That's exactly what it means," President Choi replied. "They targeted our medical personnel. They murdered wounded soldiers. They laughed while killing children. This cannot stand." Within hours, the orders went out across human space. Every colony world received the same message: total war mobilization. Factories that made medical equipment began producing weapons. Shipyards that built research vessels started making destroyers and cruisers. General Bae Yu-na, head of Earth military intelligence, began her own preparations. For 100 years, humans had traveled the galaxy as doctors, teachers, and aid workers. They had friends everywhere and knew the secrets of every major government. Now that network would serve a different purpose. "Sir," she reported to Admiral Kang, "we have intelligence assets in every hegemony system. Most of them are former patients or people we've helped over the years. They hate the hegemony as much as we do now." Captain Lim Jae-sung commanded one of Earth's few active warships, the destroyer Righteous Fury. He had served for 20 years, mostly escorting hospital ships and supply convoys. Now he received new orders: begin training for deep strike operations. Across Earth and its colonies, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Millions of people volunteered for military service within the first week. They weren't seeking glory or conquest. They wanted justice for the murdered medical staff. The recruitment centers displayed simple posters. They showed pictures of Dr. Park Ji-min performing surgery on alien soldiers. They showed Nurse Han Woo-jin caring for the wounded Centauri child. Below the images were the words, "They killed our healers. This cannot stand." Earth's industrial power, which had been focused on building hospitals and schools for a century, turned toward a different goal. The same precision and care that went into medical equipment now went into weapons systems. The same dedication that built the galaxy's best hospitals now built something much more dangerous. Other species began to notice the change. Trade ships reported seeing massive construction projects in human space. Old asteroid mining stations were being converted into weapons factories. Decommissioned military bases were coming back to life. The hegemony laughed when their spies reported Earth's mobilization. Warlord Thekmon sent a message to his commanders. "The weak humans think they can fight us. Let them come. We will crush them like we crushed their hospital ship." but some in the galaxy were not so sure. The Centauri ambassador, whose people had lost many soldiers on the Mercy's Light, sent a private message to his government. I have studied human history. They were not always peaceful. Before they became healers, they were very good at killing. I fear we are about to remember why. President Choi made one final broadcast to Earth and its colonies. He stood behind his desk, looking directly into the camera. His voice was calm but filled with cold determination. My fellow humans, for over a century we have chosen compassion over violence. We have healed instead of harmed. We have built instead of destroyed. The galaxy called us weak, but we knew we were strong enough to choose mercy. Today, they have shown us that mercy has its limits. They targeted those who heal. They murdered those who help. They laughed while killing children. This ends now. We will show them what humans are capable of when they stop trying to heal the galaxy and start trying to clean it instead. The age of human peace is over. The age of human justice has begun. The transmission ended, and across human space, the greatest military buildup in galactic history continued. The healers were becoming hunters, and the galaxy would soon learn the difference between human compassion and human wrath. 6 months after the hospital ship massacre, Earth had changed completely. Dr. Shin Yoon-ji stood in what used to be the Lunar Medical Research Center, but now the building housed something very different. Instead of developing new surgical tools, her team was creating weapons. Dr. Shin had lost her daughter on the Mercy's Light. Nurse Shin A-Ra had died trying to save wounded Andorian children. Now her mother worked 18 hours a day designing ways to kill the people who had murdered her child. The new plasma rifles are ready for testing, reported Dr. Lee Hyun-woo, her assistant. They're based on our surgical lasers, but much more powerful. Dr. Shin looked at the weapon designs on her screen. For 100 years, humans had studied alien biology to heal them. Now that same knowledge was being used differently. They knew exactly how to hurt every species in the hegemony. What about the Vactarian weakness to electromagnetic pulses? She asked. Already incorporated into the new stunner systems, Dr. Lee replied. One shot will paralyze a Vactarian for 6 hours without permanent damage. That was important. President Choi had made it clear. Humans would fight with precision, not cruelty. They would destroy the hegemony's military, but they would not become monsters like their enemies. Admiral Kang Seo-jun inspected the new ships being built in the Mars orbital shipyards. The first of the new Hippocrates-class battleships was nearly complete. Engineer Ryu Tae-oh had designed it using medical technology principles. Sir, the ship can perform like a surgical instrument, Engineer Ryu explained as they walked through the massive vessel. Every weapon system is designed for precise targeting. We can disable enemy ships without destroying them, or we can cut through their hulls like a laser scalpel through skin. The battleship was named the Park Ji-min after the doctor who had died performing surgery while his ship was destroyed. Along the hull were painted the names of every person who had died on the Mercy's Light. What about the hospital facilities? Admiral Kang asked. Each battleship has a full medical deck, Engineer Ryu replied. We can fight and heal at the same time. The message is clear. We would rather save lives, but we will take them if we must. Commander Oh Dong-wook worked in a different part of Earth's new war machine. His job was psychological warfare, fighting the enemy's mind as well as their ships. His team had spent months studying hegemony culture and society. Sir, we've identified a major weakness, reported his assistant, Lieutenant Park Min-jung. Most hegemony species don't actually support the war. Their governments tell them they're fighting dangerous enemies, but they've never seen the footage of the hospital ship attack. Commander O smiled. Then, let's show them. Human intelligence networks, built over decades of peaceful contact, suddenly became active across hegemony space. Every alien doctor that humans had trained, every student who had studied on Earth, every patient human medics had saved. They all became sources of information and ways to spread messages. The footage of the hospital ship massacre began appearing on hegemony communication networks. People across their empire saw hegemony forces laughing while they shot medical escape pods full of children. The reaction was immediate. On the hegemony world of Kresh, riots broke out when citizens saw the videos. The local government had told them they were fighting a defensive war against human aggression, Now they saw their forces murdering doctors and nurses. Captain No Subin trained with the new Wraith-class stealth fighters at the secret base on Europa. These ships were invisible to enemy sensors and could strike without warning. They were painted black with silver medical crosses, a reminder of their true purpose. "Today we practice prisoner rescue," she told her squadron. "Intelligence says the hegemony is holding 300 human medical personnel in labor camps. We're going to get them back." The Wraith fighters could slip past any defense. They used the same cloaking technology that human research ships had, developed to study dangerous phenomena in space. Now it would hide ships carrying weapons instead of scientists. Captain Lim Jae-sung commanded the carrier Han Woo-jin, named after the nurse who had died protecting the Centauri child. His ship carried 50 Wraith fighters and had enough firepower to destroy a moon, but its most important feature was the massive medical bay that could treat 1,000 patients. "Sir, the new fleet is ready for its first operation," reported. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Park Soo-young, Admiral Kang, had chosen their first target carefully. The hegemony had 3 forward bases in the Tau Ceti system. These bases launched attacks on coalition colonies and served as supply points for hegemony fleets. More importantly, they were purely military targets with no civilians. The human fleet approached Tau Ceti in complete silence. 200 ships moved like ghosts through space, their stealth systems hiding them from enemy sensors. At their head flew the flagship Mercy's Light II, a hospital ship that could heal thousands or destroy planets. "Sir, enemy bases detected," reported the sensor officer on Admiral Kang's command ship. 3 orbital stations, approximately 5,000 hegemony military personnel total. "Are there any civilians?" Admiral Kang asked. "Negative, sir. Pure military installations." Admiral Kang opened a channel to the enemy bases. "Hegemony forces, this is Admiral Kang Seo-jun of the Earth Defense Force. You have 60 seconds to surrender. We do not wish to harm you, but we will if you refuse." The reply came from the base commander, a Vactarian general named Thokmar. "Human cowards, we do not surrender to weaklings. Come and die." "Very well," Admiral Kang said calmly. "Operation Nightingale is authorized. Begin surgical strikes." What happened next shocked the galaxy. The human fleet didn't charge forward like typical military forces. Instead, they moved with the precision of surgeons performing a complex operation. Each ship had a specific target and role. Captain No's Wraith fighters struck first, hitting the base's weapon systems with perfect accuracy. Not one shot was wasted. Within minutes, the heavily armed stations were completely defenseless. Park Jimin and her sister ships moved in next. Their weapons cut through the base's hulls like surgical instruments, opening precise holes that caused no unnecessary damage. Hegemony soldiers found themselves trapped but alive as human marines. Boarded their stations, Major Jung Ha-rin led the boarding parties. Her troops moved through the enemy stations like they were walking through familiar hospitals. Human intelligence had provided perfect blueprints of the bases, and the assault teams knew exactly where to go. "Secure the command center," she ordered, over the radio. "Remember, minimum force necessary. We're here to capture, not to kill." The 3 bases fell within 2 hours. Not one civilian was harmed because there were no civilians present. Human forces captured nearly all 5,000 hegemony personnel alive, treating their wounded and providing medical care. But the real message wasn't in the victory itself. It was in how easily the humans had achieved it. The hegemony bases had been considered impregnable, protected by the most advanced defensive systems in their military. Human forces had taken them apart like surgeons removing a tumor. News of the victory spread across the galaxy within hours. The coalition world celebrated, but the hegemony was horrified. Their propaganda had claimed humans were weak and cowardly. This attack proved otherwise. Commander Oh Dong-wook made sure the footage reached every hegemony world. Citizens saw human forces moving with impossible precision, capturing bases without destroying them, treating enemy wounded with the same care they gave their own people. "This is what happens when healers are forced to fight," read the message, broadcast across hegemony space. "We would rather save your lives, but we will end your war." Dr. Shin Yun-ji watched the victory reports from her laboratory on Luna. Her weapons had performed perfectly, disabling enemy systems without causing unnecessary death. She thought about her daughter, killed while trying to heal wounded children. "Ara," she whispered, "we're not like them. We won't become monsters, but we will stop them." The first human military operation in over a century was complete. Earth's forces had proven they could fight with the same skill they had once reserved for healing. The galaxy began to understand that humanity's century of peace had been a choice, not a weakness. In the deepest parts of space, human shipyards worked around the clock. More battleships, more carriers, more stealth fighters, all painted with medical crosses to remind everyone why they were built. The healers had become hunters, but they had not forgotten their true purpose. The hegemony was about to learn that when humans decided to fight, they brought the same dedication to warfare that they had brought to medicine, and that was a terrifying thing to face. Field Marshal Park In-ho studied the holographic battle map in his command center on the battleship Mercy's blade. 3 months had passed since the first human victory at Tau Ceti, and now Earth's forces were ready for their largest operation. Yet, the target was Vaktar Prime, the heart of the hegemony empire. "Sir, all units report ready for Operation Nightingale," said his aide, Colonel Kim Jae-won. "Stealth fleets are in position around the system," Field Marshal Park had commanded Earth's small peacekeeping forces for 15 years. He had never expected to plan the invasion of an enemy home system, but the footage of the hospital ship massacre played in his mind every day, reminding him why this was necessary. Captain Seo Ji-hoon commanded the stealth cruiser Silent Scalpel as it drifted unseen toward Vaktar Prime's outer defense grid. His ship and 50 others like it had spent 2 weeks infiltrating the most heavily defended system in hegemony space. "Sir, we're in position," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Nam Soo-jin. "The bioweapon dispensers are ready." Dr. Shin Yoon-ji's team had created something remarkable. Instead of deadly poisons, they had developed compounds that would cause temporary paralysis in Vactarian physiology. The enemy would be unconscious for exactly 6 hours, enough time to capture their installations, but not long enough to cause permanent harm. "This is how humans fight," Captain Seo said to his crew. "We disable our enemies. We don't slaughter them. Begin deployment." The stealth ships released millions of tiny capsules into Vaktar Prime's atmosphere. Within minutes, every Vactarian on the planet began to feel drowsy. Within an hour, the entire population was peacefully unconscious. Commander Yu Kyung-min monitored the operation from the intelligence ship Healing Hand. Her sensors showed hegemony defense systems going offline, one by one as their operators fell asleep. It was like watching a patient go under anesthesia before surgery. "Sir, the planetary defenses are down," she reported to Field Marshal Park. "All military installations are secured. The population is unconscious but stable." Field Marshal Park gave the order for the main assault. Hundreds of human ships dropped out of hyperspace around Vaktar Prime, but instead of bombing the defenseless planet, they began landing troops at military targets. Major Jung Ha-rin led the first assault, teams down to the planet's surface. Her Marines moved through the sleeping capital city like ghosts. Vactarian soldiers lay unconscious at their posts, completely helpless but unharmed. "Secure the command center," she ordered. "Medical teams, check vital signs on all personnel. Make sure no one is having adverse reactions to the bioweapon." This was the difference between human and hegemony warfare. Even while conquering their enemies, humans made sure their prisoners stayed healthy. The hegemony high command building fell within minutes. General Tekvan, the supreme military commander, was found unconscious at his desk. Major Jung carefully moved him to a medical bed and made sure he was breathing properly. "Sir, we've captured the entire hegemony leadership," she reported. "All are alive and stable. The bioweapon is working perfectly." But the real prize was the intelligence data. Human experts led by Captain Lee Jung-ho began downloading everything from hegemony military computers. Troop movements, supply lines, secret bases, weapon plans, all of it fell into human hands. "My God," Captain Lee said as he read the files. "Sir, you need to see this. They have detailed plans for attacking every hospital ship in Coalition space." The Mercy's Light was just the first target. Field Marshal Park studied the horrible documents. The hegemony had planned to systematically hunt down and destroy every medical vessel they could find. They wanted to eliminate the concept of mercy, from the galaxy. Make sure this information reaches every coalition world, he ordered. The galaxy needs to know what the hegemony was really planning. On other worlds, human forces conducted similar operations. Captain Kim Do-hyun led the assault on the hegemony shipyards at Kepler 438. His squadron of stealth bombers, all named after medical personnel who had died on the Mercy's Light, struck with surgical precision. Target the weapons systems only, he ordered his pilots. Leave the life support and medical facilities intact. The massive shipyards that had built the dreadnoughts used to attack hospital ships were disabled within hours, but the thousands of workers inside were unharmed. Human forces even provided medical care to injured enemy personnel. Commander Park Sun-ho commanded the rescue mission to the hegemony prison camps. Intelligence had located dozens of facilities where captured coalition personnel were held in terrible conditions. Many of the prisoners were human doctors and nurses. "Sir, we found Dr. Kim Hee-jung," reported his aide. Dr. Kim had been captured 6 months ago when her medical transport was attacked. She was thin and injured but alive. "Doctor, you're safe now," Commander Park said as medical teams carried her to their ship. "We're getting all of you out of here." The prison rescue operations freed over 3,000 coalition personnel. Most were medical staff who had been captured while trying to help wounded soldiers. They had been tortured and starved, but human forces arrived in time to save them. Back on Vaktar Prime, the hegemony leadership began waking up from the bioweapon. General Thekvan opened his eyes to find himself in a medical bed with human doctors checking his vital signs. "What? What have you done?" he asked weakly. "We conquered your entire system in 6 hours without killing a single person," replied Dr. Yang Min-seok, the chief medical officer. "Your planet, your fleets, your government, all captured. And we made sure everyone stayed healthy while we did it." General Thekvan was confused. In hegemony culture, conquered enemies were killed or enslaved. The idea of capturing an entire world while providing medical care to the defeated was incomprehensible to him. "Why aren't you killing us?" he asked. "Because we're not you, Doctor," Yang replied simply. "We're healers who have been forced to fight, but we haven't forgotten what we really are." News of the Vaktar Prime operation spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The humans had conquered the most heavily defended system in hegemony space without firing a shot in anger. They had captured the enemy leadership while providing them medical care. Coalition worlds celebrated the victory, but the reaction in hegemony territory was more complex. Citizens who had been told humans were weak and evil saw footage of human soldiers helping wounded hegemony prisoners. They saw human doctors treating enemy patients with the same care they gave their own people. Commander Oh Dong-wook's psychological warfare campaign reached its peak. Broadcasts showed human forces helping hegemony civilians who had been injured in previous battles. The message was clear. Humans fought to protect, not to destroy. "This is what your leaders call weakness," the broadcasts said. "Judge for yourselves whether these are the actions of monsters or healers." Revolts broke out across a dozen hegemony worlds. Citizens demanded to know why their government had attacked hospital ships. They wanted to know why they were at war with people who treated even their enemies with kindness. The hegemony military tried to fight back, but their advantages were gone. Human intelligence networks, built over decades of peaceful contact, provided perfect information about enemy movements. Hegemony forces found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Captain No Subin led her Wraith fighters in a series of strikes against hegemony supply convoys. But instead of destroying the ships, they disabled them and provided rescue services to the crews. "Sir, the enemy pilots are confused," reported her wingman, Lieutenant Yoon Tae-hee. "They keep asking why we're helping them after defeating them." "Tell them it's because we're human," Captain No replied. "We don't abandon wounded people, even our enemies." Field Marshal Park In-ho reviewed the results of the campaign from his command ship. In 3 months, human forces had captured or disabled 70% of the hegemony military. They had done it with minimal casualties on both sides. "Sir, intelligence reports that 15 hegemony worlds have declared independence from their government," reported Colonel Kim Jae-won. "They want to join the coalition." Field Marshal Park nodded. "That's what happens when you show people there's a better way to live. Military force can conquer territory, but compassion conquers hearts." The war was almost over, but one target remained: Warlord Thekmon, the commander who had ordered the hospital ship massacre, was hiding in a massive fortress station deep. Supreme Admiral Li Yeon-su stood on the bridge of the flagship Justice's Edge and watched the Iron Fang fortress grow larger on the main screen. 1 year had passed since the hospital ship massacre, and now the final battle of the war was about to begin. The massive asteroid fortress looked like a metal mountain floating in space. Weapons covered every surface, and energy shields shimmered around it like a protective bubble. Inside that fortress was Warlord Thekmon, the creature who had ordered the murder of human medical personnel. "Sir, all fleets report ready," said Captain Cho Hee-rin, the Supreme Admiral's aide. 800 ships in position. The Iron Fang is surrounded. Admiral Lee had commanded Earth's forces for the entire war. She had watched human compassion turn into human determination. The same species that had spent a century healing the galaxy was now methodically destroying those who attacked healers. Commander Kim So-ra stood on the bridge of the Vengeance of Mercy, a battleship built from the salvaged pieces of the original hospital ship. She was the last surviving officer from the Mercy's Light, and today she would see justice done for her dead crewmates. "Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission from the fortress," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Park Jin-woo. The main screen showed Warlord Thekmon in his command center. The alien looked the same as he had a year ago when he ordered the hospital ship's destruction. Cruel, arrogant, and completely without mercy. "Human fools," Thekmon snarled. "You think you have won, but you will break yourselves against my fortress. The Iron Fang has never fallen to any enemy." Supreme Admiral Lee opened a channel to reply. Her voice was calm and cold. "Warlord Thekmon, you are accused of war crimes, genocide, and violations of galactic medical protection laws. Surrender now and face trial, or we will take you by force." Thekmon laughed. "I do not recognize your weak laws. Mercy is for cowards. Come and die against my weapons." "Very well," Admiral Lee said quietly. "All units, begin Operation Final Judgment. Remember, we want Thekmon alive, and we protect any prisoners or civilians." What happened next was the most precise military operation in galactic history. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship knowing exactly what to do. They had practiced this assault for months, planning every detail with surgical care. Captain Seo Ji-hoon led the stealth fleet in the first wave, the Silent Scalpel, and her sister ships appeared from nowhere, striking the fortress's sensor arrays and communication systems. Within minutes, the Iron Fang was blind and deaf. "Sensor grid down," Captain Seo reported. "They can't see our main attack coming." Dr. Shin Yeonji's new plasma cutters were mounted on specially modified ships. Captain No Subin piloted one of these vessels, flying dangerously close to the asteroid's surface, while her weapons carved precise holes in the fortress walls. "Cutting through the outer hull now," she reported. "The openings are surgical, no damage to life support or medical facilities." Major Jung Ha-rin led the assault teams through these openings. Her Marines moved through the fortress corridors like they were walking through a familiar hospital. Human intelligence had provided perfect maps of the facility. "Secure the detention. Level," she ordered over the radio. "Intelligence says they're holding coalition prisoners there." The fighting inside the fortress was brief, but intense. Hegemony soldiers tried to resist, but human forces moved with impossible coordination. Every Marine knew exactly where to go and what to do. Commander Park Sun-ho found the prison levels first. Hundreds of coalition personnel were locked in terrible conditions. Many were doctors and nurses captured during earlier battles. "Medical teams to detention level 7, he called. "We have wounded prisoners who need immediate care." Even in the middle of battle, human forces stopped to help injured enemies. When hegemony soldiers were wounded in the fighting, human medics treated them alongside their own casualties. Field Marshal Park In-ho coordinated the assault from his command ship. He watched his forces move through the fortress like antibodies fighting an infection, precise, efficient, and focused only on their target. "Sir, we've secured 80% of the facility," reported Colonel Kim Jae-won. "Resistance is collapsing. Thekmon is trapped in the Central Command Center." The final assault on Thekmon's command center was led by Commander Kim So-ra herself. She had waited a year for this moment, to face the monster who had ordered the massacre of her friends and colleagues. "This is for Captain Lee Dae-ho," she said as her team breached the command center doors. "This is for Dr. Park Ji-min. This is for Nurse Han Woo-jin. This is for all of them." Thekmon tried to fight, but he was surrounded and outnumbered. When human Marines stunned him into unconsciousness, Commander Kim felt a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness. Justice was finally within reach. "Target secured," she reported. "Warlord Thekmon is alive and in custody. The Iron Fang Fortress fell within 6 hours. Human forces captured the entire facility with minimal casualties on both sides. The last major hegemony stronghold was now under coalition control." 3 days later, the trial began on the neutral world of Centauri Prime. Representatives from every species that had lost people on the Mercy's Light were present. The courtroom was filled with survivors, families of the dead, and officials from across the galaxy. Warlord Thekmon sat in the defendant's chair, surrounded by human guards. He still showed no remorse for what he had done. To him, attacking a hospital ship was just good military strategy. "You are charged with the deliberate targeting of protected medical personnel," read the chief judge, a Centauri magistrate named Veltar. "You are charged with the murder of 2,000 medical staff and 8,000 wounded soldiers. How do you plead?" "I plead nothing," Thekmon snarled. "I do not recognize this court or your weak laws." Commander Kim Sora took the witness stand. She described the attack in detail, how the hegemony forces had targeted the medical bays first, how they had hunted down escape pods, how they had laughed while killing wounded children. "He told us that mercy was for the weak," she testified. "He said healing our enemies made us enemies too. Then he ordered our destruction while we were trying to save lives." The evidence was overwhelming. Recordings of Thekmon's orders, footage of the attack, testimony from survivors, all of it proved his guilt beyond any doubt. President Choi Min-ho gave the final statement for humanity. He stood before the court and spoke in the same calm voice he had used to declare war a year earlier. "Your Honors, the defendant believes that mercy is weakness. He thinks compassion is cowardice. Today we prove him wrong. Humanity could have killed every hegemony citizen in revenge. Instead, we fought with precision and protected even our enemies. We showed mercy to those who showed us none." He paused, looking directly at Thekmon. "True strength is not the ability to destroy. True strength is the ability to choose compassion even when you have the power for revenge. We choose to be healers, not killers. But we will never again allow others to mistake our mercy for weakness." The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all charges. Thekmon was sentenced to life imprisonment on a prison world, where he would receive the same medical care and humane treatment that he had denied his victims. 6 months later, President Choi stood before the Galactic Coalition Council to announce humanity's new doctrine. Behind him was a holographic display showing the new human fleet, hospital ships escorted by battleships, medical vessels protected by destroyers. "The Hippocratic mandate is now in effect," he declared. "Any faction that targets medical personnel, attacks the wounded, or violates the sanctity of healing will face the full might of humanity's war machine. But those who respect the rights of the injured and defenseless will find in us the same compassionate allies we have always been." The new Mercy's Light 3 was the symbol of this doctrine. The massive hospital ship could heal thousands of patients while defended by weapons capable of cracking moons. Captain Lee Dae-jin, son of the original captain, commanded her. "Father," he whispered as he looked at the memorial wall showing pictures of everyone who had died on the first Mercy's Light. "We remember them, we honor them, and we make sure this never happens again." Across the galaxy, human patrol fleets maintained the peace. They were still healers first. Every ship carried medical facilities and rescue equipment. But they also carried the promise that anyone who attacked the defenseless would face justice. The hospital ship massacre had taught humanity a terrible lesson. Mercy without strength is vulnerability. But they had also taught the galaxy something important. True strength protects the weak rather than preying on them. Dr. Shin Yun-ji returned to her medical research, but she also kept her weapons laboratory running. "We must be prepared," I told her staff. "There will always be those who see kindness as weakness. When they appear, we must be ready to remind them that healers can also be hunters." The galaxy was safer now, Human fleets patrolled the shipping lanes, protecting medical vessels and rescue ships. The Red Cross on a white background had become a symbol of both compassion and terrible justice. In the depths of space, Earth's dark fleets waited silently. They were a promise and a threat. Attack the healers, and the hunters will find you. The age of human peace was over, but the age of human protection had begun.